Here on this Friday, Melissa Francis, New York City physician and Fox News contributor Dr. Nicole Saphier, Executive Director of Serve America PAC, and Fox News contributor Marie Harf. Joining us today, political editor at townhall.com and host of the Guy Benson Show on Fox News Radio. Guy Benson sits in our virtual couch center seat. And also, for a big discussion today, Chris Wallace steps in, who was just feet away from the president, both candidates, at Tuesday night's presidential debate. Chris, great to see you. I want to come to you first because there have been so many fast-breaking developments, even in just, I look up at the clock in my office, even in just the last few minutes. You've got some people testing positive. Senator Mike Lee, who we've learned was at the White House earlier this week. Can you maybe umbrella all of this for us with what we should be watching for?
Well, I'm going to tell you what my doctor is telling me, which raises some questions for me. And, you know, I'm only going to tell you what my doctor is telling me, but it does raise some questions about the timeline because I'm going to have to get a test. I'm in a uniquely vulnerable circle. The three people on the stage for an extended period were the president and the vice president and me, all without masks. And my doctor is telling me that I shouldn't get a test today because it takes 5 days for the virus to load up enough, and that I could have a test, but it might well be a false negative. The significance of that to me is that if the president had a test yesterday and it tested positive, then I think he had the coronavirus during the debate because, you know, this talk about, well, he was with Hope Hicks on the plane in Minnesota on Wednesday. I don't think you'd have a positive test. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm simply telling it in terms of what I was told by my doctor. It wouldn't load up enough to have a definitive positive test for about 4 or 5 days, which is why I'm not getting tested until next Monday.
Right, right. We do know from the schedule, Chris, that Hope Hicks was also at the debate in Cleveland, Ohio. So there are a couple of intersective points, if you will, where the president was there. But the big picture in all of this today is how many people now are being considered to be in that circumference of spread, if you will. A lot of staff, people in the inner circle with the White House. You've got people on Capitol Hill who might have been meeting with members of the White House, that sort of thing. As we look ahead, how much does that impact the business that's getting done? We heard, you know, already that the president this morning is doing business as usual by phone, but not everybody's doing that. Some people are still out and about.
You know, I really am approaching this from three angles, three sort of levels of concern, if you will, Harris. First of all, the health and safety of the president. And we are all praying that he is going to have a very mild case and will not have anything more than these mild symptoms he's reporting, and that he'll get negative tests and be back at full strength and back in business and on the campaign trail within 10 days, which if everything goes well and he gets 2 negative tests is possible. The second is your very good question, which is the continuity of government. I don't think there's any question about the continuity. First of all, the president at this point is able to discharge his functions. We also know that if he were to get sicker, that the vice president has tested negative, as has his wife, Mrs. Pence. So they could step in to take on any functions that the president was unable to carry out. But then the third level, particularly since we're just over 4 weeks away, is the political impact. And I think it's going to be considerable. As you pointed out, at the very least, the president is going to be off the campaign trail and unable to hold those rallies for probably 10 days at the very least. And, you know, when we talk about 10 days and whatever, we don't know what's going to happen with the president's illness. We all hope and pray that he gets better quickly. But yes, he is a 74-year-old man. And, you know, I am 72. Biden 77, we're all in the most vulnerable group, so you got to take it seriously. We don't know how this illness is going to evolve. But I also think it's going to make the COVID virus and how the virus is being handled and how the president has dealt with it, how Joe Biden has handled it. I think that puts it right to the top of the political agenda again and makes it a very important issue in this campaign.
Chris, this is Melissa Francis, and I wanted to pick up on that topic that you were talking about with politics. First of all, I don't believe you're in your 70s, and I'm going to need to see your birth certificate later because you look much younger than that, my friend. But let me ask you about how this changes things on the campaign trail. First of all, we have about 30 days to go to the election, I think 32. People are now staying inside for, I believe, 10 days. Once you, at this diagnosis, he's off the trail for 10 days. That leaves, 20 days or something, which, as we know in politics, is forever. So you're right. We have to see how, his particular condition develops over time. Luckily, the people I've known recently who have been in their 70s and have had comorbidities and have contracted this have been fine, luckily. So hopefully this will be similar. Just to the few people I know in my life. Let me ask you, as far as the trail, so Joe Biden's team, they were finally going to go back and kind of give in and start doing the door knock, starting today, I believe, in Michigan. I mean, we've heard a lot of reports about that. Can they do that now?
Well, they can do it, and obviously none of them were in the debate hall, but it does raise the question again about getting serious. I mean, this isn't, and this is going to be brought up a lot, whether you think it's fair or unfair. These two campaigns have dealt with COVID very differently. President Trump has been out without a mask. He's been holding these big rallies, thousands of people, tremendous, enthusiastic Trump supporters crowding into outdoor spaces, airports, but without masks in many cases and very close together, no social distancing. The vice president has been much more cautious, wearing a mask, much smaller events. Oftentimes people have to wear masks and, it could be a dozen people all in those little circles. This is going to cause a reexamination, I suspect, on both sides about what's the right way to handle it. We talked about it in the debate. I asked the president about the fact that Biden has worn a mask. He hasn't. The president took a mask out and said, I've got a mask here, but I don't think I have to wear it. And then, frankly, he mocked Joe Biden and said he's always wearing a mask and he always has these small crowds. I do want to point one other thing out, which I think is very important, because not only the president had it, but so did the First Lady. And at the debate, there were very strict rules. The only people who were not to wear masks were the president, the vice president, and me on that stage. Everybody else was supposed to wear a mask in the audience. The first family came in wearing masks, but they took them off. Mrs. Trump, who we now know has the virus, as well as the first family, and because they were taking it, if I may please, because they were taking it so seriously, members of the Cleveland Clinic came up to them and said, if you need a mask, and they waved them away. And I can tell you, people of the hall noticed that the first family wasn't wearing a mask. Mrs. Biden was, people in the Biden camp were, my wife, 4 of my children's were, and they noticed that the first family wasn't wearing a mask against the protocol of the Cleveland Clinic.
I understand that. I heard you tell that story earlier today, and I think it is impactful. But if I may just say, so your point is, though, that the Biden camp, if they're going to stick to the way that they have run this campaign and stick to the things that you just said, and pointing out when people are wearing masks and aren't, they can't begin their grassroots door knocking today, or else that would be hypocritical, right?
I don't know. I mean, the Trump campaign has been doing it for a long time. I suppose if they're wearing masks and they're socially distanced and stay some distance away, they couldn't. I don't know that that's the key story today. It seems to me the key story is the health of the president and the question of the safety. Right. To me, the takeaway of this whole thing is the follow the science. We've made the masks a political issue. We haven't, the candidates have, and it's not a political issue. It's a public health issue. And if I could say one thing to all of the people out there watching, forget the politics. This is a public safety health issue. The president of the United States is in the most secure bubble in the world, in the sense that everybody who comes in contact with him has to take a test, and he still got it. So wear the damn mask and follow the science.
Oh my goodness.
That's the key takeaway.
Chris, I understand what you were sharing from your doctor, and we know very well that it can take 3 to 5 days, and we are praying for you, everybody on that debate stage, the president, his opponent, everybody who came within your sphere, your kind of connection zone for any of this to be spread. God bless you, my friend. We'll be thinking of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and thank you so much for being with us, Chris. Some